Not everybody has the ability to focus on the game for 10 hours a day, but throwing it up on a second monitor and AFKing while you get some work done is a great way to make some passive GP or gain some XP. And with that in mind, welcome to AFKing 9 to 5. Fellas, this video is dumb. This is the dumbest idea I've ever had. I had this concept of a series where I just AFK'd while I was working, and then I presented you guys with the information about the activity after I was done. I thought, yeah, might as well go for a pet for episode 1, and well, as you can tell, this is episode 2, so things didn't go exactly according to plan. But of course, it is not a no-leather grind if it doesn't involve going 4 times the drop rate. But more on that later in the video. Today I'll be detailing the AFK Sarachnis method. This method was first popularized by low soul gamers, and then later on by a friend. This method mainly works because of how defensive Justiciar is, but adding in the additional defense of the Din's Bulwark or even the Ellie, and you've got yourself a pretty solid method. But one item makes this an actual AFK grind, the Amulet of Blood Fury. If you've never used this thing before, let me tell you, it is incredible, although quite expensive, costing about 550 GP per attack. This item has a passive leech life effect that will heal you roughly 6% of the damage you deal. Sarachnis has 400 HP, meaning on average you should heal about 24 HP per kill. Hopefully this is adding up and you see the power that this has. But before we get into this video too much, I need to thank today's sponsor, the like and subscribe button. Please consider pressing them. Thank you. First, let's talk about the requirements for this method. These are the base requirements, but obviously, as with any PvM activity, higher stats are just better. You'll need 75 defense to equip full Justiciar, as well as 75 attack to equip the Din's Bulwark. If you have the money, 75 prayer is needed to equip the Ellie, and 80 attack to wield the Inquisitor's Mace. I tried both of these setups, and the Ellie Mace combo was about 3 extra kills per hour and slightly more AFK. But my friend who lent me these items needed them back, so I only did about 1/3 of my total kills using the expensive setup. But with that in mind, here was my final setup, the one I did most of my kills with. Full Justiciar, Din's Bulwark, Amulet of Blood Fury, Guardian Boots for extra defense, Ring of Suffering for extra defense, with the recoil effect turned off, Infernal Cape, but a Fire Cape would work just fine, Radha's Blessing for the prayer bonus, and Barrow's Gloves. I picked Barrow's Gloves over Ferocious Gloves, again, just for the defense bonus. For my inventory, the math sorta looked like this. On average, I was using about 15 anglers per trip, but I always brought 16. I almost always used all 8 of the prayer pots I was bringing. I very consistently, almost every single trip, with the exception of 1 or 2, used 1.5 doses of Divine Super Combat, but I always brought 2 full ones just in case. I brought a construction cape to get to and from the boss, as well as banking at Castle Wars. But obviously this can be replaced by a house tab or whatever method you want to use for banking. And I also brought the Wilderness Sword 4, because it has a 100% success rate to slash a web. But of course, you could just bring a knife. You don't really need the sword here. The funny thing about this grind is that I had a little piece of paper beside me. I was writing down how many anglers, how many prayer pots, and how many super divine combats I was using per trip. But maybe the more interesting thing was I was writing down how many trips I did in 8 hours, as well as how long each trip was. My longest trip was 38 minutes, which is pretty damn good, especially for an AFK activity. But my shortest one was only 23 minutes. Kinda crazy how RNG works. When I averaged out my times, my average trip was just under 31 minutes. And this means I completed 16 trips to the spider in 1 day of AFK. I do think I trolled a little bit here. I was testing on multiple days if it was better to use Protect from Melee or Protect from Magic. I do think it's more ideal to use Protect from Magic just because of how low your magic defense is, but I eventually chose to use Protect from Melee. After the fact, I think this was a bad decision, but let me at least try to explain my reasoning. Sarachnis is an interesting boss. It is designed for mid-levels, so no damage you take is crazy, especially in this defensive gear. The spider attacks you in 2 different ways. If you're standing within melee distance, it will obviously melee you. But every 4 attacks, she will shoot a web at you, locking you in place while ranging you from a distance until you get unstuck. Becoming unstuck will happen automatically even if you're AFK, so just use auto retaliate. But so far we have 2 attacks, 1 melee and 1 range. You can block both of these 100% if you're changing prayers, but we're AFK, so obviously we're not doing that. Sarachnis also spawns 2 minions, 1 mage and 1 melee. The first set spawns at 66% of her health, and the second set at 33%. With auto retaliate, you're quite likely to automatically target and kill these minions, and this is very helpful for avoiding damage, but in a worst case scenario, you could be in melee range of the boss, getting hit by 3 melee attacks, 2 from the minion and 1 from the boss, as well as getting hit by only 2 magic attacks. This is why I chose Protect for melee, but if you do this yourself, I think you should use Protect for magic. Again, just because your magic defense is so low. I don't know why I did this. It was kind of dumb. And that's pretty much an entire kill. You just repeat this over and over and over again. So let's talk about some numbers and my thoughts on the grind. With the bulwark setup, I was averaging about 20 kills an hour. The pet is 1 in 3,000, effectively making this a 150-hour grind, or about 19 full days of AFK. But how viable was this to AFK while working? Well, my trips were about 31 minutes and I was clicking about 50 times per trip, making this about 100 clicks per hour or 1.6 clicks per minute. This math doesn't exactly work because most of the time I would complete a kill completely AFK in about 2.5 minutes. And then I would click on my prayer pot 2 or 3 times as well as an anglerfish. So it was a small burst of 5 clicks in about 5 seconds, and this really throws off the math of average clicks per minute. I will say, if you work a job that you can't glance over and click the game client, if you get unlucky and run low on prayer or HP during a kill, which by the way did happen quite a few times, this is more likely an AFK activity you should do on a chill day where you're not working. And even now, you might still be asking, why would you even want to do this? In all honesty, it's not great GP. I did this entirely so I could get a pet, and well, we know how that ends. So let me break down the cost per day and the profit to see if I actually made at least some money. In 178 kills for the day, I made 4.75 mil before supplies and Blood Fury charges. My Blood Fury started the day at 9,592 charges and ended at 4,568. This is 5,024 charges for the entire day. So we'll make this very easy and say I used about half of the charges in one day. A Blood Shard currently costs 5.7 mil, so half is 2.85 mil. This means our profit already went from 4.75 mil to 1.9 mil. In a day, I used 24 Divine Super Combats, 240 Anglerfish, and 128 Prayer Pots. So minus another 1.96 mil. I lost money. And this was a pretty normal day, even with 2 cudgels. My kills came out to be about 26.6k on average, and the math says an average Sarachnis kill should be about 27k, so almost bang on. So I lost money, didn't get a pet, and I died a lot. When I was AFKing, really focused on my work, it really pissed me off when I died.
Dying on my hardcore Iron Man. Completed.
I be working too much.
I think I died about 10 times during all my KC here, so minus another 3.3 mil from that. And to clarify, this is not 10 times in one day. This is about 10 times in over 3,000 KC. So to stay alive and make this grind possible, there were times I had to slack incredibly hard while working. And for what? Well, mainly elite clues. With hard and elite clues from this boss, you actually make a little bit of money doing this method, if you do the clues when you get them. But no, it's not recording! Oh my god, I actually got it. I really didn't think I was gonna get it today. Let's go, that's so sick. Yep, you think I just quit? Hell no. Sarachnis pet at 3,686 KC, and the grind was worth it. Going into this, I knew I was gonna lose some money, but it was all for the pet. I completed the boss. I also really wanted to do elite clues, since you get a unique reward for completing 200 of them, which I still haven't finished, but you know, I got much closer, so that's good. But that was AFKing Sarachnis 9 to 5. I hope you enjoyed the video. A lot of time went into making this, and I would appreciate you liking and subscribing if you'd want to see more videos like this in the future. I'm also looking for ideas for this series, so feel free to leave some in the comments. Thank you to my YouTube channel members Dino and Snacks. If you want to see episode 1 and find out how much XP and GP I got from catching Karambwans 9 to 5, you should see a video on screen now. In the next episode, I'll be trying something that is actually being added to the game tomorrow, which is weird. So we'll see how that goes, but I've got nothing left to say, so I'll see you in the next one.